Thank you.
Hey, long live baseball,
Long
baby.
live baseball. Let's
go.
Long live baseball.
Thank you.
You got it.
Right now.
Long live baseball.
And here we are, and Mike Jones is back from his spring training adventure. Welcome to Long Live Baseball. We have a lot to talk about today, including Mike's spring training adventure, which he will tell us all about. I'll keep droning on about Jordan Walker until the cows come home. He's playing pretty well. What are the Cardinals going to do with their outfield? And, of course, news and notes from the World Baseball Classic. Notes from around the league. And Mike's dictionary segment, I don't know if he's got one tonight, but we might force him to. Mike Jones, what's going on, my friend?
I mean, we kind of have to do the dictionary segments become kind of a staple of the show. So we're going to have to do that. The thing is, I'm going to have to find the dictionary. It's weird. I should show you the books that I have laying around in this, whatever I call this place, a studio, right? Studio. Yeah. Anyway.
A library of, bad baseball surrounded by just Cubs memorabilia and,
We will have a baseball dictionary segment of the show if I can find the baseball dictionary. How about
that? Hopefully you have 7 of them. Can you not find one?
Yeah, well, I probably mailed a bunch of them away. I don't know. We're really strange that the baseball dictionary seems to be missing. I'm guessing really that probably my wife got really interested in reading it and took it to another locale or location while I was gone on my adventure.
Hid it from you. Yeah, because you're spending too much time in the dictionary.
Yeah, and she probably hears me talking about her, and she'll probably bring it in here when she realizes what I'm talking about. It's weird. I don't see it. Usually, it's just sitting right here, not here. Oh well, whatever. Hey, baseball, baby! I'm telling you what. I'll tell you what. Let me just tell you this, and I don't know. I'm going to have to look at the show sheet because I've been on the road, and let's just say the road is a fun place to be on until you're on it for a long time. And then it's like, man, hey, can I get home at some level? Get a little bit of that, but it was a good trip, and look forward to putting together kind of a mini show for our listeners, viewers. Probably be more fun on the YouTube channel because it'll have pictures and some things like that. But just kind of talk about it. If you haven't, in the big picture, I could kind of summarize it with, if you haven't had an opportunity or you haven't taken the opportunity to go to spring training, either Grapefruit League or Cactus League, I imagine it's similar in both places, although it did rain a little bit in Phoenix, Mesa, Goodyear, Surprise area. There's thunderstorms, I think, in Florida almost every afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. So anyway, if you haven't had a chance to take it in, take it. Start planning for next year because it is awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, I have an aunt that lives in Arizona. I might have to take her up maybe on spring break next year and just going down and with you. Maybe down with you, and we might have to next year. We'll have to plan this out, but I would love to go down and be boots on the ground and get some content. Like what we produced at the beginning of the show was literally Mike sent me these clips. I threw together a video. We'll have a much more extensive version of it later on, so be tuned in for that. I'm excited to see what kind of content Mike came up with, or what kind of content he got. And, obviously I thought Ricketts at the end, you sent me, I was like, oh, what's his name? Giambi, with the Marquee Network. That was cool. The Brewers players. That was cool. The manager of the minor league manager of the Brewers. And then the last one you sent, which I almost didn't upload it because it wasn't working. I was like, what could this be? I almost didn't. And then it finally worked. And This is Ricketts. I was like, Ricketts at the end. Like, oh my God.
And
How'd you manage that? But
well, listen, Tom, Mr. Ricketts. I don't know what to
Mr.
call
Ricketts.
him. Tom. I guess I can call him Tom at this point because I've had an opportunity to interview him for the show for a couple times. Brief little interviews or whatever. But I send you. I don't know if I ever sent you the other one about our off-season spending. Did I?
I think so. I think you
Yeah.
did. I think you sent it to my phone, and whenever you send it to my phone, we'll have to track that one down and
Yeah,
add that to it.
I'll put that one in the file too,
Okay.
because that's a fun one. I had Tom Ricketts talking about actually names you by name, which is the best part about it, right?
And he kept his word. I mean, they spent some money.
They did. They did. Yeah.
No.
So it's good fun. It's of course left field. I'm over on the left field berm because right field sucks, and and I'm sitting over there, and it was our second game at Sloan, I think, and we had just spent part of the day over there. There's a player walkway that goes from the Performance Center to Sloan Park there in Mesa. And like I was sitting there and Patrick Wisdom went by in a golf cart and then he ran back the other way. He was like, can't stop, guys, can't stop. I got to get ready or whatever. And then and Boog and Ron Coomer, the radio voice of the Cub All-Star, Cub All-Star, and got to take a picture with him in that walkway and a lot of minor league players going back and forth. It had rained heavily the day before, so the practices weren't as fun, I guess. Fun. The access, in all seriousness, like the access, we went to the Seattle Mariners shared ballpark, and I can't remember right off the top of my head who they share with, but it was the Mariners park, and could not believe like the guys that were just walking, just right there. And the best part was you got all these little kids running around with baseballs, and I'm telling you what, like I've got a video of Dakota Hudson. He actually kept us, kind of blocked our way. At one point, there was two ropes that got put out where a little walkway from a practice field to the facility for the Dodgers was. And Dakota Hudson was in there long enough that at one point I just yelled out, "Hey, I just want to get to my car." And everybody busted out laughing because we couldn't go anywhere. We were stuck. And but he spent probably, I'll bet, 45 minutes going back and forth, up and down the lines, autographing stuff for people, and got some pretty cool, I got a video, some, pictures, videos, all that of just, got to see Noah Syndergaard warming up, practicing, talking about angle of the ball, all that kind of stuff. It was just, it's really cool, really cool. Like, I can go on and on about it, but I don't know that we want to do that in this show. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I mean, why not? I mean, spring training is very underrated if you've never been. I was fortunate enough, like I said, my aunt lives in Arizona, so I've been to a game before, a spring training game, and the atmosphere is unlike any atmosphere, I think, in professional sports.
Yeah.
I think there's just a energy and a buzz around it. You got all the younger players that you get to see. Obviously, the St. Louis Cardinals fans get to see Jordan Walker and Mason Wynn and Alec Burleson and some of the younger players that we're all looking forward to, and that fans of the team that really follow the Cardinals and the Cubs, like we follow the Cardinals and the Cubs, know and are aware of. And it's very just how baseball should be: loose, laid back, fun, good weather. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like I can't say enough good things about spring training, and it's next year. We might have to plan something for.
Hey, I'm all in. Put the chips all in. Let's go. My parents live there. We've got a place to stay. And it is. It's good fun. We took part of the show that I'll put together or whatever. Hey, good afternoon, Meet the Mets fan. And welcome back. Glad to have you. Part of our journey, I went down with a colleague of mine, and part of our journey was, hey, let's make this a road trip. I mean, we drove across country. We checked the mileage, 4,000 miles, to go down to Phoenix, and maybe a little bit less than that, and home. But, part of that route is Route 66. And why did I say route and then route? That's interesting. I never noticed that before. Anyway, part of that, seeing the blue whale and seeing some of the things along the way in that regard, and Cadillac Ranch, which just different stuff like that you don't get to see when you're doing the flyover thing. You got more time on the ground there, but the road trip to me is half the fun. That's the enjoyable part. Now, the big news from spring training, and I don't know, maybe we'll go off the charts a little bit or off the notes a little bit, but at some point today we can talk a little bit more about the pitch clock, and its impact, and those kinds of things. Yeah, man, there's so much I could talk about. You know what I mean? It's almost like I'm not very often at a loss for words, but right, it's like there's so much I could talk about. I could go on and on about things. At play, the thing that gets me is about spring training is just the like if you ever wanted to sit, like if you ever wanted to have right behind home plate seats, at Busch Stadium or Wrigley Field or Citi Field, or if you ever wanted to have that, go to spring training. You have to. I got online. It was a day that there was a forecast for rain. Okay. And I got online, and Goodyear Park is the one that's closest to my parents' house. It's the home of the Cincinnati Reds. It's their training facility. Got online. I was like, I'm going to see what kind of tickets I can get. I got tickets right behind the Cubs dugout, 2 rows, second row. Could have heard David Ross talking to his players, right? I mean, so you're that close. $14 a piece. $14 a piece. You can't beat that. Now, Sloan Park is probably the most expensive ticket in Mesa, in the Phoenix area. I mean, I sat closer at Goodyear, and again, rain was in the forecast, so I think season ticket holders were like, yeah, I ain't going to that game. It's going to rain. And it did. We got wet. It rained on us. Actually, they only got 4 innings in, so it was free. It ended up being free, right behind the visitors' dugout. I couldn't, sitting on the berm in left field cost me $34, on a Tuesday or something like that. So, the ticket prices vary, but compared to regular season games and that kind of thing, not so bad, got some sun. That was fun. Fun in the sun kind of thing. And then came home to this.
30 degrees or colder. But who was I don't know if this is a good question to ask you, but who was the player or coach or manager, or I guess, Ricketts might be the obvious answer, that was the coolest, and it was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'll do it. Like, yeah, was it Dakota Hudson, 45 minutes with the fans, or who was somebody that stood out as, oh, that guy's I hope that guy does well, even if he plays for a team that I don't like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dakota Hudson, that was, I mean, guy, caught the third out of the World Series, right? I feel like,
no,
maybe
I don't think so.
No,
what are you talking about?
I don't know.
He wasn't around. He wasn't around for our 2011 World Series.
I don't know. I'll have to.
That was Alan Craig. He caught Jason Mott was on. Anyway.
Anyway, yeah, I don't but that was a cool moment. I mean, you got this guy and you got dads who have their kids. I mean, you really want to do something for the game, take your kids to spring training when they're young, right? Because now there were a lot of kids that were in tears and bawling and all that kind of stuff that kids do too. But if you have a 11, 12, 13-year-old, somewhere in there, I'd say. But you got dads with their kids on their shoulders holding out baseballs, and a guy that stood there for seriously, it had to have been at least, I feel like I exaggerate it, but at least a half an hour signing autographs. Going up and down the line, hundreds of people there, and just one thing after another, and that's really cool, But seeing Ricketts out in left field on the berm, just standing there talking to the fans, that's pretty cool too. And I think the other thing is some of the old timers that are down there, like Fergie Jenkins is down there. I didn't get to see him, but I think now that I've really experienced it once, I've got a plan for how I'd want to do it next time, right? Like, one of the things, a couple of the things that we learned were that if you're, there's not always a game at every stadium, right? So, because sometimes a team will be on the road. So the day to go to that stadium, to like, in some cases, go to the team store or things like that is on their off day when they're traveling or whatever. Because nobody cared. The team's gone, so nobody's really cares. But getting up early in the morning to go to practice facilities, the San Diego Padres, Seattle Mariners, I could not believe the access there. It was like going to a little kid softball tournament with professional players. You know what I mean? Standing at the concession stand in the middle of four fields, and they're all around you, like. The Cubs prospect pitcher is standing 10 feet behind me, and I'm looking at the guy and I don't know his name because his name's not on the back of his jersey, but he's, what I mean? It's like, and they're all like right there. Like I've got one video that I'll share in the show that we do down in the future here. I'm going to put together a 10-15 minute thing about the spring break or the spring training experience. And I've got one video, just walking with a couple of Seattle Mariners. Like they're just walking from the field, and we were walking to the car, and they were going to their performance center, and we're just walking down the sidewalk next to them. And they've got their bat bag and all that kind of stuff. And again, I don't know who they are, another aspect of it that I don't have any video or photos for is that you've got grown men. This is the interesting piece to me. You've got grown men walking around with big old 3-ring binders of baseball cards and memorabilia and stuff like that. And they're like running after players just like the little kids are. You know what I mean? It was really cool to see Kyle Hendricks, the professor, came out to talk to some family, and a couple of little kids saw him kind of off in the distance, and they ran over there, and he spent a little time signing autographs for 4 or 5 kids that took the time to go over to see him. And, I felt bad for the father of the little 8-year-old that I punched out to get the baseball from, but it was worth it. No, I'm just kidding. But it was, those types of things. It's like, I don't know, like at one point, who's the guy that went from the Brewers to the Dodgers, the long hair, and I throw on a blank on. Oh my gosh, the closer.
He didn't go to the Dodgers. He went to the Padres, right? Josh Hader.
Did he go to the Padres or the Dodgers? I don't remember.
Padres.
Maybe he went to the Padres. Anyway, I don't know. There's just a point where you're like, you're watching these guys, and that's what's cool about baseball, right? Mm-hmm. Like that kind of access is what's cool about baseball. And so, it made it a lot of fun. Like Christopher Morel. If I had to pick a Cubs player that I thought was off the charts, like Christopher Morel during the rainout, he's standing during the rain out after everybody went. They put the tarps on and everything. He's standing down in the Cubs dugout signing autographs for kids while the team's heading to the locker room in the rain. Like, and then I go to Sloan the next day, and he's standing down the third baseline doing the same thing on the third baseline, like signing signing stuff and interacting and taking selfies and all that kind of stuff with players or with fans, and yeah, just a lot of fun.
I realized that it probably wasn't Dakota Hudson that you saw.
No.
Yeah, that just occurred to me. Because the Cardinals are in Jupiter, Florida, obviously, and you were in Arizona. So,
Oh shoot.
But I just anyway, but
drawing a complete blank now.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's awesome. So that's great. Some great insight there.
Now I'm gonna have to look. Now I'm flustered.
It's all good, but it's just really cool. I mean, literally, I remember when I was there, you would have players, like you said, just going from the dugout to the parking lot to hop in their truck and go pull away, and you're like, I'm 10 feet from the third baseman who just played in the game. It's kind of like these guys are playing a pickup game almost, and they're just going to go home and go about their normal lives. It's just like, it kind of normalizes or humanizes them, because we tend to think of baseball players, at least I do, and I think we've iconicized or idolized these guys.
Daniel Hudson. Doggone it.
Daniel Hudson.
Daniel Hudson.
Okay. Well, you got the Hudson part right.
Well, Daniel Dakota starts with a D.
Yeah.
And I'm a dummy. So there you go. Daniel Hudson.
Well,
golly.
So I think the access part of it is the really cool part of it. And I think this game, if you break it down to its simplest part, the game is about the fans and the fan experience of it. And you don't have a game without your fans. And I think most players recognize that. And I think that is what the spring training experience is all about, is the fan experience is really unlike anything else that there is in professional sports. I mean, I guess NFL training camp, I don't know, but still it's not, I don't know. It just there's something different about spring training. And I think it's really cool.
I think the bit, probably the part of it that is the coolest is just like you said, the laid back nature of it. Like, I talked to some folks that were along the walkway. They had their cars backed up and they were tailgating, tables out, hot dogs, chips, potato salad, coolers, all that kind of stuff. And right along this walkway. And I'm like, hey, what, how do you get this parking spot? And the guy's like, well, it comes with, we're spring training season ticket holders. And so, it's this kind of parking. And so we're able to park here and whatever. And they're just sitting there, it's just like, I don't know. The biggest thing I can compare it to is being at like a Hawkeye football game. And, you're just hanging out and enjoying the sun and enjoying the weather. And sorry, my apologies, tip of the hat to Daniel Hudson for me calling him Dakota Hudson for half an hour. So anyway.
Well, should we transition to, we can talk about the players with the Cubs that are doing well in spring training as well. But man, oh man, I know I keep talking about it, but the Cardinals are going to have a tough decision to make. Tyler O'Neill came back from the World Baseball Classic. He's hell bent on being the starting center fielder, which I think is interesting, because I think that tells me that even he knows, one of those corner outfield spots is for Jordan Walker. because Jordan Walker's hitting 378 right now. I know it's only 40 some at bats, but
Right.
I shared a clip with you, and it's in the show notes. 115 exit velocity off the bat down the third base line, and that ball got to the outfield wall on the ground as quick as I've ever seen a ball get there on the ground. And I'm really trying not to put the kid in a tough spot because he's 20 years old, and I don't think Cardinal fans should necessarily be comparing him to Albert Pujols, even though some of us are, and some people are going to do that, and it's not fair. But I mean, this is the closest thing we've seen to Albert since Albert, and he's probably going to go through ups and downs in his rookie year, but he's going to be the opening day right fielder. We're less than 2 weeks away from opening day, and he's hitting 378 in spring training with, I think, 4 bombs and 9 RBIs and an OPS plus above a 1,000 or 1, or however you want to say that.
Right. How do you keep a guy like that off the field? Right.
You can't do it, Mike. And Mason Wynn too he's hitting over 300, and he's got a cannon. And I know they say he's not ready to go, but I mean, why would you? I don't know. I think Mason Wynn's probably going to stay in double or triple A, but golly, I mean, these kids, just the talent there is off the charts. And I don't know if the Cardinals just have a problem here. Like, they're just too many guys that they can play in the outfield. And it's like, gosh, we like all these guys. We like Dylan Carlson. We like Tyler O'Neill. We like Jordan Walker, and we like Lars Nootbaar, and we like Alec Burleson, and we like Juan Yepez. Oh my God. Like, what? But these are the decisions that are fascinating to me, because somebody's the odd man out. Like, somebody's going to be either in AAA, or somebody's going to have to get traded or something. And that there are teams calling the Cardinals, inquiring about these guys.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing about all that. I mean, I don't think it'll be the Cubs that will come a calling. I mean, that'd be awesome if they were. But I read a tweet earlier this week, and I know it's not tweet of the week time yet, but I'm going to read you a tweet. Friendly reminder. This is Alex Cohen at Voice of Cohen. Friendly reminder that the 2018 Memphis Redbirds had Randy Arozarena, Adolis Garcia, Tyler O'Neill, Oscar Mercado, Patrick Wisdom, and Luke Voigt. They went 14-2 against the Iowa Cubs, and only one of those players is still with the Cardinals. Like, you think about that, and you're like, wow, yeah, that's a lot of people that they've actually moved to, and yet you still have these phenomenal prospects that are tearing it up during spring training, and as a Cubs fan, I hate to see it. But I saw a video of Mason Wynn, he fields the ball and then like triple clutches and then throws over to first to get the guy. And I'm like, holy buckets, he's got a cannon. He does have a cannon. I mean, they're great players.
The criticism I've heard from him is like, you don't need to throw it that hard over to first base. I'm like, you don't need to throw it that hard. Every other player wishes they could throw it that hard over to first base. Like, what are we talking about? Like, you shouldn't throw it that hard. What, are you worried that the first baseman, who's another professional player, is not going to be able to catch it? Like, or the throw might be inaccurate. I don't know. Like, I guess you could say, oh, is he showing off? And just make the routine play and don't triple pump. But come on, like, what? Like, just, you see that, and just these traits, it's just like, you don't see it.
Right.
Like, it's so rare to see players like this with this amount of talent. Now they got to put it together consistently. And that's the beauty of baseball. Like, just because we've seen flashes and, we're talking about 40 at bats, 30 at bats, and it's a flash. It's a moment. It's impressive, but it's a lot different. And it's going to, since the minor league season is short, I wonder too, and this is where we have to just be realistic with these things, the grind, the day in, day out for these younger players is going to be something they've never experienced before.
Right.
And so there's going to be moments where they're going to struggle and they're going to be developing. And so I'm going to prepare Cardinals fans right now. Although it looks like Jordan Walker for sure is going to at least make the major league roster and probably start in right field. I think he will start in right field on opening day. Even though that's going to happen, we have to temper our expectations and realize this kid is 20 years old, going to be 21, never played a full season. The minor league season's shorter than the 162 game regular season of the MLB.
Right.
So there are going to be moments where he struggles and we need to give him some grace while he's still developing as a player, but the talent is off the charts and it's exciting. And I can't wait to watch this kid play and potentially be that guy who hits behind Arenado and Goldschmidt and Contreras. And then if you start putting the pieces of this Cardinal lineup together, it's among the best in baseball. It really is.
Yeah.
So it's wow. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but I'm excited. Color me excited.
Yeah, I can understand your excitement. And on the other side of the equation, I'm excited about what's happening in Wrigleyville as well. I mean, watching, seeing a belly bomb, at spring training was one of the highlights of being there.
What's a belly bomb? Oh, Bellinger home run. Okay.
Yeah.
Took me a while to put that 2 and 2 together, but
it took me a while to put Daniel Hudson together. So there you go. But I've got an excuse over you though. I've got age. But seeing Dansby Swanson now, everybody's talking about Dansby Swanson striking out during spring training. And, I read a lot of stuff about, it's interesting. Like Swanson is notoriously not as strong at the beginning of the season as he is mid to end of season. Like
that's kind of like Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt's like that too.
Yeah. It's interesting to see and hear, some of those things. I mean, but that's something to be excited about. When we were watching the Reds, of course, I got to see Joey frickin' Votto. He's the man. Got to see him batting and everything too. Is it okay for a 54-year-old to want autographs of 26 to 35-year-olds? That's a question that I think we
should put in the chat. We should chat. Let us know. Is it okay for Mike Jones? I'm
not talking about me. I'm talking about the other guys that are running around. I didn't do any autograph. I didn't do any autograph seeking. I just want to know if I were to decide to do so, would that be okay? Is it acceptable? There were a lot of guys running around, older guys running around. Anyway, I mean, because if Joey Votto, I would get Joey Votto's autograph. Like if I ran into him, I'd be like, Joey Votto. He's Joey Votto. Anyway, Caleb Killian, one of the Cubs pitching prospects. Seeing Hayden Wesneski do what he's doing at spring training. Again, we're talking about a lot of pitching here in the Cubs organization that they've been really working on trying to develop and that kind of thing. And so, seeing Caleb Killian on a foul ball down the third baseline, pop foul, dove for the ball, and it was just an incredible play. And Tucker Barnhart's kind of talking to him afterwards. You said a few minutes ago, like, don't throw so hard to first base. And I had to wonder what that conversation was about. Like, hey, dude, you don't need to dive in spring training for that, or let me get that, or let it go, or whatever. Because these young guys, hey, they're out there busting their butts because they want to make the opening day roster, right? I think that's part of it anyway. So it looks like Seth has left the show. He's in such disagreement with me. But seeing some of those guys make plays like that, even during spring training is exciting. And so watching, I don't know, the exciting part to me about what's happening in the Cubs organization is that you've got guys like Trey Mancini, Eric Hosmer, Matt Mervis comes back from the World Baseball Classic. They immediately put him into the lineup, and he's bashing the ball all over the place. You've got guys like Nick Madrigal. You've got a lot of guys that right now, if I looked at fan graphs, are probably listed as bench players. Some of these guys, right? Mm-hmm. But what does that create in the organization? Well, it creates a sense of urgency for the players. You better be playing, kind of like Jordan Wynn or Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker. Like you guys, Lars Nootbaar and you guys better be given what you got, because you got some guys coming up behind you that are gonna cause some problems. Like, and I heard on a podcast on the way home, we had plenty of driving time, something about Lars Nootbaar and how he's increased his exit velocity by 3 miles an hour or something like that during the off season. So there's little things like that, dynamics that are going on that I find to be fascinating. With the Cubs in particular, mm-hmm. Ian Happ made some solid plays while we were there. You've got, Nick Madrigal's been playing some third base. There's some decisions to be made about where are guys going to be, and that's a good problem to have in both of our organizations.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like when Rizzo and Bryant and Baez, were there decisions to be made there? No, we knew who was going to be playing day in, day out. About the only position that we had where there were some decisions to be made was catcher, right? Contreras was not our full-time catcher. We forget about David Ross. We forget about Miguel Montero. We forget about, right? I mean, and so there was some depth at that position. So I don't know. Having that depth is a great problem to have.
Yeah, and it breeds competition, and competition breeds urgency. And yeah, I mean, it's the person who works the hardest with the talent is the person who's likely going to succeed and play.
Yeah.
So it's interesting it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. And this is the time of the year where people get excited, people like me. And again, we don't, like I always say, spring training is exciting. It's the build up to the MLB season, but it's one piece of the puzzle. It's a very important piece, but it's one piece of the larger picture that is going to be this player's future, or this, how he's going to do. And it's a great indicator. It's the only indicator we have right now. But yeah, it's going to be so intriguing. We can put the pieces of the puzzle together the best we can right now, but we only have so many pieces to put down. And these teams are in the same position. Like if we asked John Mozeliak, hey man, what's your outfield going to look like in 2 months? He'd be like, check back with me in 2 months. I don't know. It could, like, we'll see. And like, if Jordan Walker comes in and starts hitting right away, great. If Dylan Carlson comes in and starts hitting right away, it's going to be performance based. It has to be, whoever is, and that's the beauty of baseball. I mean, whoever, is hitting, Lars Nootbaar, I'm guessing if you made me guess today, it would probably be Lars, Dylan Carlson, and Tyler O'Neill fighting it out for center field, and Jordan Walker.
Yeah.
No, but 2 months from now, it could be completely different. And that's that, like you said, they're the only real solidified spots, I think, in the the lineup for the Cardinals right now, Arenado, Goldschmidt, and Contreras. Even Tommy Edman. If Mason Wynn, supposedly he's not ready, but Mason Wynn plays shortstop. Like I'm assuming Tommy Edman has a role on this team until Mason Wynn comes up, right? And then it's like, well, what do we do with Tommy Edman? Tommy Edman's a good player. He's a really good player. Brendan Donovan is a good player. Nolan Gorman, we haven't even talked about him. He was the big prospect that was coming up last year.
What's going on with Paul DeYoung? I haven't heard you mention Paul DeYoung lately.
Paul DeYoung, he's probably not going to start at shortstop, but does he have something left in a bench role for a team? He's another redemption story, like you mentioned. Like, what do the Cardinals do with him? It's his last year of his deal. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. It's like we have all these players, and I haven't even mentioned the pitchers yet. That it's like, golly, it's going to be so fun to see how it all shakes out and what this team really looks like as we enter the season and we get going, which we are so close for that to that being a reality.
Than 14 days. Less than 14 days. So Thursday was 14 days from opening day.
Yeah.
What is today? Saturday? 12 days.
Saturday, yeah. So we are 12 days away from MLB opening day. And man, I couldn't be, like you said, I think the theme of the day is excitement. There's energy in the air. Mike's freshly back from spring training. And so let me see. We've kind of been jumping all over the place. Have you been paying attention to the World Baseball Classic, Mike?
Hey, can I? Yeah, it is 12 days, by the way. I got my countdown right there.
Oh, good.
But here's it. Let's talk a little bit more. I want to talk just a little bit more because I'm looking at fan graphs, and if you're looking at fan graphs, the projected starters against right-hand pitching for the Cardinals, and Jordan Walker's on there.
Yeah,
Jordan Walker, the non-roster invitee, is on the opening day projected lineup for the Cardinals. For the Cardinals, the lineup goes Edman, O'Neill, Goldschmidt, Arenado, Contreras, Nootbaar, Walker, and then Brendan Donovan, Dylan Carlson. Yeah, they're,
which Dylan Carlson was the top prospect like 2 years ago, and Brendan Donovan got Rookie of the Year votes last year.
Yeah,
those are your 8 and 9 hitters.
Well, you've got 2 first-round picks on that roster right there for you, right? I mean,
well, and we aren't even talking about Nolan Gorman is not in there. He's
right. He's projected on the bench, and he's the number 1 pick, right? Yeah. Crazy.
But anyway, I
know
this.
Talk St. Louis pitching a little bit, though.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Adam Wainwright, right? I think I mentioned it on our last podcast. Adam Wainwright, his velocity still in the mid 80s. We'll see what he looks like come the regular season, but I always remained true to this, and I think Adam Wainwright is not the same old Adam Wainwright that he used to be. Obviously, he's 40. He was a member of the AARP squad last year. That we jokingly kid with Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina, but it was fun. It was a fun joke that we came up with, I thought. But anyway, some people might not like it. Some people might get all bent out of shape, but he was a member of the AARP. I mean, it's a kind of a cool wrestling faction, the AARP. I don't know. Anyway, but so he's going to have a role on this team, but to expect him to, and this is a part of the reason why I think starting pitching is the biggest need for the Cardinals right now, to expect him to, there's just a lot of unknowns. You can't expect him to pitch the full season. I don't know what you're going to get from Jack Flaherty. I'm optimistic that he can put together a really good season. But I think there was, I think he missed the start in spring training. So I was like, oh boy, when you see that, you hold your breath. I think the most dependable arms in there right now are Michaelis. Michaelis has to be that steadying force of the rotation for sure. Michaelis and Jordan Montgomery are probably the 2 guys that you need just to come in and pitch every 5th day and pitch 6 innings, 7 innings, give up 2 or 3, just be consistent guys. Michaelis has been great. And I wouldn't be surprised if Michaelis gets an extension before the end of the year, because I think he's not only earned it, but I think it's out of necessity because the Cardinals only have, 1 pitcher under contract, I believe 1 or 2, if you count Dakota Hudson, after this year. So they're going to have to figure that out. And that's also going to factor into the possible trade negotiations that the Cardinals are going to have to figure out. But then it's Steven Matz, and that's probably your 5. You're probably looking at Wainwright, Michaelis, Jordan Montgomery, Jack Flaherty, and Steven Matz. And Steven Matz, has been another guy. I don't know if you can depend on a full season from him. You hope so. He looked great when he pitched last year. and he looked like he was living up to that contract that you gave him. But then, I think it's smart that the Cardinals are likely going to go with a lot of spot starters in their bullpen too, like the Packy Naughtons, the Andre Palantes, Zach Thompson, the left-handed pitcher. We'll see if he makes the squad. I think the last time I looked, John Denton didn't have him projected to make the squad. But yeah, and then you have Helsley in the bullpen. The bullpen should be good. That maybe you could argue they need some depth, but that depth is likely going to come from the guys I just mentioned. The 1-2 punch at the end is about as good as you can get. And shoot, I'm blanking on his name, Helsley and not Genesis Cabrera, but anyway, you guys know who I'm talking about. So I think it's the biggest question marks for the Cardinals right now are, what do we get from Wainwright? What do we get from Flaherty? And what do we get from Steven Matz?
Those are three huge questions, though.
Yeah,
you're talking about 3 out of the 5 guys in your starting rotation. Those are huge questions.
Oh, I know, and that's But the good news is there's Dakota Hudson, who you mistakenly referenced earlier,
20 times. 30 times.
Yeah, so there we do have guys like Dakota Hudson. Everybody forgets about Jake Woodford, can start games. Andre Palante was in our rotation last year. So we do have some guys. There's some depth there. Not necessarily top of the line depth. I mean, it is starting pitching depth. But again, our season is going to be determined in some way, shape, or form, in some fashion, as to what we get out of the 3 guys we just mentioned. And if you tell me that Jack Flaherty can be 80 to 90% of what he was 3 years ago, if you tell me that Adam Wainwright can pitch and have an ERA that's in the high 3s, low 4s, and last the whole season, if you tell me that Steven Matz, pitches 75% of the season the way he was pitching last year, and we get solid seasons out of Montgomery and Michaelis again, then I think the Cardinals could win 100 games plus. But I don't know if that's realistic to expect.
Right. Yeah. I think that's part of the joy of this part of the year too, isn't it? As excited as I am, I don't know what we've got.
Yeah.
Right.
And nobody knows, and not even the Cardinals. I mean, like I said, same question to the starting rotation. If you ask John Mozeliak, hey man, what do you think the starting rotation is going to look like, in 2 months? He'd be like, come talk to me in 2 months. We might have a couple new pitchers on the team, because I really think they're going to make a move, because I think they're smartly waiting to see what they have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if there's an injury, then look, we can go make a move. If Wainwright's not the same old Wainwright, then we can try to get him right and make a move. Like if Flaherty's not right, we can, so it's just a lot of these question marks that are going to be answered probably a month or maybe 2 months into the season. Yeah. So what about, and the Cardinals project by all accounts to be a playoff team as we enter the season. Like, I think they're still favorites to win the Central, although the Brewers are going to be good. I think the Brewers are going to be good, and I think the Cubs are going to be better. I do. I still think they're probably going to finish third, but they're going to battle it out for number 2. And if they finish second, it wouldn't surprise me. But again, I think the cellar dwellers in the NL Central are the Pirates and the Reds. And I've gone back and forth with these poor Pirate fans. I was in our comments, I was chatting with a 70-year-old Pirates fan. God bless that gentleman, who probably remembers some of those teams in the 70s that were really, really good. They had a good run in the 70s. So it's, unfortunate. And we've talked about the Pirates before, but I'm going to shift it back to you so you can talk more about the Cubs. It's too bad. I don't know, and this is probably a topic for a future podcast, what baseball should do about some of these teams like the Pirates. I think the Reds have spent some money. I don't know if they've spent it wisely, but they did re-sign Joey Votto. So, I mean, they've kept some stars. Yeah. But it seems like the Pirates just trade away everybody or let people walk in free agency. And I don't know what you really do about the franchises, that it doesn't really seem like they're trying all that hard to be competitive. If they're just kind of hanging around to get that that check that comes in every month, what do they call that? The profit sharing check.
Okay.
At all the so anyway, but talk about the Cubs, Mike.
Well, I mean, as far as starting pitching goes, Stroman's been away, pitching for Puerto Rico, and of course we have a big story to talk about in that regard in just a few minutes. But Jamison Tallion's had a decent spring training. Justin Steele has been pitching well. Drew Smiley and Hayden Wesneski has probably made a big argument for, he's the guy from our organization that's kind of the Jordan Walker type guy. Like, how do you keep this guy off the bump? I mean, okay, maybe he's not ready, maybe he is, but we need a fifth guy. And I think we may have found him in him. Now, that being said, one of the guys that I do not see and I'm going to go deep into Fangraphs here because I think I have to go deep to figure this out, is a guy that we saw pitch during the World Baseball Classic, and Assad, Javier Assad, and he's going out there throwing bullets. And I don't even think that I see him listed in the but he's kind of making a case. I guess my point is he's kind of making a case for maybe he needs to be one of the guys that's on this list as well. I want to look real quick here to see where, gosh, I don't even see him listed in the.
Yeah, I do. He's 10th on if you sort it by pitcher.
Oh, there he is. Okay,
10.
yeah. Okay, yeah, I see him now. But so and I just in terms of the transactions recently, the Cubs, the guy that I mentioned, Caleb Killian, has been optioned to the minors. A lot of guys: Brennan Davis, Kevin Alcantara, Ben Brown, Canario, Miguel Amaya. A lot of these guys are prospects that have been optioned to the minors just in the last 7 days here. And so, it's going to be interesting because the Cubs are in this kind of unique, we're trying to compete now, but trying to build for the future too. Not that every organization that wants to win the division isn't doing that. But some of these names that you're hearing are guys that are top prospects for the Cubs that they're not the non-roster invitee making it to the opening day roster like a Jordan Walker is. We're going to see these guys in a couple years, right? But the Cardinals, we're in terms of where they're at, they're kind of like, it's kind of now is the time, right?
Yep.
For them. And so they've got to bring those prospects now. And the Cubs are kind of like, well, let's see what we got with these parts that we've put together this year, and then while we're building the next great Cubs team, which I don't know how that goes in the locker room, right? I mean, because that's the talk that we're having is we're building the next great Cubs team. Well, who does that involve? Does that involve a Dansby Swanson? Does that involve an Eric Hosmer?
No, not Hosmer.
Right?
It has to involve Swanson, though. It has to. I mean,
right.
He's on a 7-year contract, right?
Right. So sometime in the
I would
next
hope so.
7
I'd hope
years-
so for your sake. I would hope so. He's a part of the next great Cubs team, right?
I'm with you. So Matt Mervis, where's he at in the equation? Hosmer apparently is just a placeholder right now for Mervis, right? That's what the hope.
Yeah, you'll see with Bellinger. Like if Bellinger's great, then
right,
you have the option to extend him at likely a higher price. I mean, he's on a prove it deal right now to see if he can be that MVP level Bellinger that he used to be. So,
yeah.
And I think Wrigley Field's going to be he's going to like hitting in Wrigley Field. I have a feeling.
And you know who else I think is going to like hitting at Wrigley Field is Edwin Rios. That dude is a big dude who's got some real power. And so, obviously another acquisition that maybe we don't talk about so much as those other big names, but I think Rios is going to have fun at Wrigley, and I think he's going to like hitting there. So, and the other big question mark is Trey Mancini. And, what kind of year will he have? He's had a decent spring training by all accounts, but there's just so many question marks on the Cubs. So.
Yeah. So should we talk a little bit about the World Baseball Classic? Or
listen, I don't know if you noticed my Cubs hat today. Last time we talked, listen. Last time we talked, I was kind of rough on the World Baseball Classic.
You were, yeah.
Let me tell you, the World Baseball Classic's awesome. I didn't even know there was such thing as a bike pump horn until the World Baseball Classic. Like the Mexican team, apparently, I don't know, is it the Puerto Ricans or the Venezuelans? I don't know who it is. Maybe it's all of them. They have taken a bike pump and turned it into a horn. It's incredible. The Americans are irritated by it. I went to see the U.S. versus Canada. It was honestly, it was relatively kind of like a baseball game. But there was somebody that had a bike pump horn there, which was kind of cool. And when I wish I'd have saved the tweet, because you could see there were two lists: noisemakers allowed at the World Baseball Classic and noisemakers that aren't allowed. Like on the aren't allowed one, there was clappers. You can't bring clappers, but on the allowed, you can bring a bike pump horn. Like what? I mean, so interesting. Listen, it was a blast. It was a blast. I mean, seeing it was an opportunity to go to at some level to go to an all-star game without going to the all-star game, right? I mean, and there was a little part of me that was like, I had to throw up in my mouth a little bit, because a third of the players that I got to see were Cardinals. I mean, Nolan Arenado. Here's what the lineup was. Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Kyle Tucker, Tim Anderson, JT Realmuto, Trey Turner, and Cedric Mullins. And then the relief pitcher in the game that I watched was Miles Michaelis. And so who pitched 2 innings and gave up 3 hits and struck out 2. And he followed Lance Lynn. And so just watching that caliber of player, and then seeing one of our prospects, Jared Young, go up against Lance Lynn and hit a dinger for Canada, that was fun. Seeing that happen. And obviously tonight, the United States in a one and done format now is going to play Venezuela, who's 4-0 in the tournament. They're undefeated. Obviously, Puerto Rico got beat last night by Mexico, who beat the United States Tuesday, like last week, Sunday or something like that, like handing the United States their only loss with a lineup like we just talked about. I mean, Kyle Schwarber's on that team. He hit a home run in the opening game, and I didn't even get to see Schwarber play. Late in the game, and of course it was a mercy rule win over Canada for the United States, but got to see Tyler McNeil. Is it Bobby Witt Jr.? Is that right?
For the Royals, yep. Got to see him come in. Pete Alonso came in. Now Pete Alonso's striking out at an alarming rate during the World Baseball Classic, it seems like, or from what I heard, but seeing all of those names play in one game, Freddie Freeman playing for the Canadians, it's a cool deal. It was not a sellout, but Chase Field is enormous. Like it's a stadium, right? I mean, it's huge. Oh,
it's got a retractable roof. That, by the way, apparently they will not open when there are people in the building for some reason. That seems odd to me. Like there's some structural concern with the roof at Chase Field, which is kind of bizarre. But anyway,
Okay.
I am all in. I'm watching the game tonight. The excitement, the level of excitement, the people walking around supporting their countries, all the United States baseball caps. If there's one thing I was going to come back with from spring training, I've got enough Cub hats to fill bookshelves. I was going to come back with a U.S. hat. Sold out. Couldn't find one. Not one on the shelf at Chase Stadium. You couldn't find them. Couldn't find them. So I'm going to have to order online, apparently. But the World Baseball Classic, awesome event. And of course, with our friend Meet Demetz in the building, we have to talk about, should this thing be taking place prior to the Major League Baseball season? Because we all know, unfortunately, the very sad news that
Edwin Diaz
had a patellar tendon or I don't know, some ligament, something, a knee injury during the Puerto Rican celebration following their win over, I don't even know who they were playing, because that was the news, right? Was that injury. So don't know if Meet Demetz is with us or not, but sad thing to see, and is season-ending injury for him as well. Going to have to undergo surgery and that kind of thing. And so what do you think? I mean, I gave you kind of my take on the World Baseball Classic. I left here thinking, why are they doing it? The Olympics, and now I'm like, yeah, USA, I'm all in.
No, I knew it would be exciting. It's, one of those things that doesn't happen every year. And Venezuela, USA, and just kind of looking at these, I had it pulled up a minute ago. And another guy who was injured, but it looks like he's going to be all right, is Brandon Nimmo for the Mets. So they got hit with a couple of injuries. But just to kind of put in perspective, just who's, like you mentioned some of the names. On the Venezuelan team, there's some of the names: Ronald Acuna Jr., Jose Altuve, Miguel Cabrera. I assume that's who M. Cabrera is here. Eduardo Escobar, Chirinos, the catcher, Navarez, a catcher, Salvador Perez, a catcher. So, and I could go on and on. Eugenio Suarez, who's a really good third baseman. You remember him? He plays for the Mariners now, but I remember he had just some monster seasons playing for the Cincinnati Reds. And so this Venezuela team's really good, but then you look at the American team and you have Pete Alonso, Nolan Arenado, Tim Anderson, Mookie Betts, Paul Goldschmidt, Jeff McNeil, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Mike Trout. It is like an all-star team. And so when you have this level of competition on the field at the same time, playing for playing hard, playing for the World Baseball Classic title or whatever they call it, the cup, or I don't know if it's the cup. Is it the cup or the trophy or the championship?
I'm going to call it a trophy.
Yeah, playing for the trophy.
There should not be any cups.
Playing for pride. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many cups. There's the World Cup and the Premier League Cup, and there's
no cups in baseball. There are, but don't call it a cup in baseball. You're not trying to win a cup. You better be wearing one.
Are we transitioning to the dictionary segment already? Anyway,
yeah.
So yeah, I'm right there with you. You articulated it very well. I'm excited for tonight. I'm going to try to tune in to watch it. I'm going to because we're having a dinner party tonight. So I don't know if we're going to be around a television, but I'm going to try to keep up to date with it and see how the good old US of A does. And it's going to be exciting. I could convince them to watch Salvi here in Kansas City. That'd probably be an easy sell, right?
Yeah.
Watch Salvi.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen. It's kind of a strange thing, because it's now in a one and done format moving forward because pool play is done, it gets a lot more exciting. Like, the level of excitement goes up a notch. And when you talk about this Mexico team that beat the Puerto Rican team, that Mexico team's no slouch, man. I mean, Javier Assad's throwing bullets. You've got Alex Verdugo. Randy Arozarena is on that team. Luis Urias is on that team. They're no slouch. Obviously, they beat the U.S. and they beat Puerto Rico, and I think Puerto Rico, if I'm not mistaken, was favored to win it all. Las Vegas odds. You'll have to do the checking on that. I'm not big on that. But anybody's ball game, right? At this point, I think.
I'm happy to see that the Mexico won last night against Puerto Rico, and Giovanni Gallegos was the name I couldn't remember.
There you go.
Saved the game and got the save. And Jojo Romero, winning pitcher for Mexico, both Cardinals playing in the. I mean, it's crazy how many players from the Cardinals and the Cubs that are playing in these.
Yeah.
In this World Baseball Classic. And, to bring it back around to the question that you asked, I don't know if it would be better or more ideal to play this, I don't know, in January somewhere with warm weather like Arizona. I don't know. Like it seems, I don't know if I'm educated enough about like players' bodies and, the risk of injury if you play like in January and then take a couple months off, and then like I don't know exactly, like I don't know if I'm as educated as I should be on how that's going to affect an athlete's body, right? Preparing for a season. But I don't know, it just seems to me, and somebody, like I said, somebody more educated than me could school me on this. It just seems problematic that it's this close to the Major League Baseball season.
Right.
And I don't know if you agree with me or not on that, but I just think it might be better to maybe do it in December or January. Again, it's kind of hard to time these things because these players are probably, some of them, like if the Cardinals made a deep postseason run, the Dodgers are always in the postseason with Mookie Betts. And, these players, I don't know what they would prefer either. So the Major League season's so long and you got to do it sometime, but I don't know. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, here's my proposition. This is my proposition because Major League Baseball owns this thing, right? I mean, if you try to Google the World Baseball Classic, you end up on MLB's page. And so I think that they're, promoting it, or I think they own it. I mean, I don't know ultimately who does, I guess, but they're promoting it through their website anyway. Let's just put it that way. And here's my proposition. And I think it was Scherzer who talked about, because the big question mark for the U.S. team is what? Imagine that, pitching, right? I mean, our starting pitcher in the opening game was Adam Wainwright, a 41 and a half year old pitcher who, and there are plenty of other guys out there who the United States could put on the bump if they just had access to whatever players we're going to pick our team from Major League Baseball, and Major League Baseball players, you don't have anything to say about it, right? I mean, Trey Mancini was going to play for Canada, but wanted to be in the clubhouse with the guys and get to know because he's on a new team and that kind of thing, so bowed out. So here's my thing. I think they should play this thing at the end of the season. Okay? So with players whose teams have not made the playoffs or are not going towards the World Series. Now, I know you're going to compete then against, the playoffs, and you're going to compete against the World Series. But then those guys, like I think it was Max Scherzer who said, listen, I'm not playing in the World Baseball Classic because I'm not going to risk my arm. I'm not ready to play in a competitive game like that. But and like Krosno's saying here, he agrees with that. And I like his last statement. If anyone gets hurt, they have plenty of time to recover. I think that's huge. When the playoffs start, why not take the best of the rest of the teams, of the players who don't make the playoffs? They're physically ready. Now, they may be tired being at the end of the season. I get that part of it. But at least physically, they should be ready. You're not risking, arm injuries. I mean, you're always risking injury. Let's be real, right? I mean, if you can hurt yourself jumping up and down in a celebration, you can hurt yourself walking across the street. Okay. So, let's not be, they got all these people that are like, no, these pros, I think I was one of them before I went to the World Baseball Classic. Like, shouldn't we be using amateurs and not professionals? No, let's put the pros out there. This is a blast. This thing is a blast. But they have plenty of time to recover after the season. They can, and it adds excitement to baseball. Now, not only do you have the playoffs going on, now you've got the best of the rest playing in the World Baseball Classic. And so you've almost got two crescendos, can I use that word, at the end of the baseball season to get people engaged, I guess. The rest of us. If it's not going to be the Cubs fans this year because we're going to make the playoffs, but it's going to, like the Pittsburgh fans or the Mets. Well, okay, maybe not. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? You get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I cannot tell you how many people I had to just swat away, like in the comments, like when your video when you said the Cubs would make the playoffs, and there were so many people, and I was like, I wish I could have, I agree with you, but I have to make the comment from the perspective of the man who made the video. So I can't, he said it, and he supported his claim very well. He's very knowledgeable. So you can disagree with him, but anyway, I think the World Baseball Classic is great. It's going to be interesting tonight to see. And I like that solution. I really do. I thought initially when you brought it up, it's like, but then, potentially we miss out on, the Cardinals players if they make a deep run, or some other players. But then, you have a chance to get the players like the Max Scherzers who are like, no, I ain't doing that. I got a season to prepare for.
Right.
So that part of it probably balances out. So should we, do you have any final thoughts or words on the World Baseball Classic, or should we end with the Mike's Dictionary segment that is sweeping?
Yeah, I just, with the World Baseball Classic, I just wish I was in Florida. I'd love to take a trip to Florida now, because the level of excitement there right now, it's like Krosno's saying in the comments here, it's a postseason type environment. And so why not make it a postseason thing? Because that is the environment that they're playing in. I mean, at the same time that I'm really excited about Javier Assad throwing bullets and striking guys out. And who is this player? Did he play for Venezuela? No major league contract, strikes out 3 Major League Baseball players in a row and gets signed the very next day to a major league contract, right?
Oh, wow.
I mean, that part of it's exciting too. But, I just think I like the idea of that, because, you do get the postseason environment. It was a postseason environment when we were at the game on Tuesday against Canada. And twice as much, Mexico versus Puerto Rico, they fan different. Can I just say, those Central American and Caribbean, however you want to say it, those guys, they fan different. They do. It's a whole different experience in that regard.
All right. You ready?
Yeah. Well, I'm having a hard time because I'm going to have to get up and look around for the dictionary, but you go ahead and sing the jingle.
All right. It's the Dixon Baseball Dictionary segment of the show where Mike pulls out his dictionary.
Yeah. So I don't have my dictionary with me. You're going to have to lead. You're going to have to lead the segment. I can't. I don't know. I don't know where it is. I can't find it. That's crazy. I don't want to leave you hanging.
Gee, many Christmas.
I don't want to leave you hanging while
you have like 7 of them.
I do, and I don't see. Looking around my room, I do not see a single one of them. It's crazy. Crazy.
Well, if you have your Dixon's baseball dictionary handy, unlike Mike, you can turn to page. We were talking about cups, but let's talk about jocks. All right.
I'm going to leave you hanging. I'll be right back.
All right. Bye. And Mike will be temporarily gone from the show. I'm actually going to remove. Well, I need to get back over to the Cardinals side of it, so I'll add him again, and hopefully I get bumped over to the right side of the screen. So if you have your dictionary handy, turn to page 469 of the manual here. Again, you can't find one of these Paul Dixon's baseball dictionaries just anywhere. I mean, you got to find them at your local bookstore. You clearly cannot find these on the interweb, Amazon. Just go to your local bookstore. But we're looking at the word jock today. And we're looking at the word jock. It says an athlete. It derives from the word jockstrap, because athletes wear jock straps. And its first use was in 1916. And it's quoted here from Baseball Magazine. Ask your dealer, and if he will not supply you with a Mitzpah Jock number 44, and send us 75 cents. And that's, like I said, that's taken from Baseball Magazine. Baseball Magazine 1916. And it's just unbelievable. This book is unbelievable. The detail and JIT on that same page, JIT, is Spanish for a base hit. For a base hit with the World Baseball Classic. Yeah. JIT. It's Spanish for a base hit. Ooh, here's a good one. On page 468, jinx, a person or influence that brings bad luck, a run of bad luck. The Portland catcher reached for the ball, but the jinx knocked it out of his hand. That's from the San Francisco Bulletin on April 14th, 1913, written by Gerald R. Cohen.
Wait, the jinx is a person in that regard?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a noun. It's a noun.
It's a jinx, like the black cat. Like the jinx.
The cat. Yeah.
Well, that's a verb.
Yeah, that's a verb.
Yeah.
But the jinx knocked it out of the hand. It's almost like its own entity, like a spirit or something that does not wish you well.
Interesting. Wow, I don't know if I've ever heard it that way. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Did you find your dictionary? Did you just need an excuse to go to the bathroom?
Well, seriously, if you want good bathroom reading, and I mean this with highest regard and a tip of the hat to Paul Dixon, that is the book right there to get. That is, I'm telling you. That is it.
And Mike let everyone down with his not having his dictionary. I don't know. You're going to have to find this before the next show.
I think I must have brought it with me to spring training. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Maybe.
do you have any final words of wisdom or plugs to make, or?
Well,
now I know we broke the news on the last show that we were going to be having some guests. Is there any update in that regard? Yeah. You've been a busy man, so no pressure.
Yeah, I've been a little bit busy being on the road and traveling and all that kind of thing. But I think, the more that I think about it, I think that when we get WM Akers on here, I'm trying to think when the best time would be to do that. And maybe not during baseball season. Maybe during the off season would be a good time to bring him on, because we're all wanting baseball at that time. But maybe we'll bring him on, and then we'll bring him on a couple times. But we are going to have that future, show with WM Akers on there. We're hoping to get Paul Dixon, on there. I got to continue to try to reach out. Huh?
He's a big deal, though.
Yeah, he's a little bit harder man to find, I guess, maybe. But so is WM Akers. This guy's got some great stuff, some great, stuff that he's putting out there. I hate the word stuff. What do writers put out there?
Work.
Content.
They're
Content.
literary volumes of scholarly work.
There you go. I like that. That's very good wordsmithing. And then the other thing that I got to listen to a couple of podcasts during my trip. And of course I'm going to draw a blank on them right now, but there's one called, no, not actually. There's one called Down on the Farm. That is what it sounds like.
It's about a dairy farm.
Exactly. It's about milking cows. And so, us being from Iowa, it's, not only meaningful, but it's you can use it,
Yeah.
applicable. It's very applicable.
Mm-hmm.
In all seriousness, it's about minor league baseball.
Oh, it's that kind of farm. I should have consulted the dictionary.
You should have consulted the dictionary for that.
Yeah.
But that's a good one, Down on the Farm. And then there's another one that's kind of connected to that. That's the one I'm going to lose my thinking on. But you'll like it because it's one of those data-driven things, and I'm not a real analytics guy. But I told you my wife was reading the baseball dictionary. She brought it to me.
Oh wow! How about
that?
Wow. All right. Yeah. Well, now it's too late though.
No, it's all right. It's all right. But we could look up the farm because I'll bet you. Let me see
will you bet the farm that you'll be able to find the farm?
I'll bet the farm that we can find the farm. Farm club. Farm director, farm hand,
club,
farming ground, farm out, farm system, farm team.
Oh my God.
Farm. Frank Chance has threatened to retard the growth of Rochester, New York. He has made it known that he may remove the farm of the New York Mets from that city to Jersey City, New Jersey. That was the first time.
Before we get canceled for the word I think that word is just in a different context, right? It's used in a different way. The word
totally acceptable use of that word.
Yeah. Anyway, we won't mention other words that sound like other words that could potentially get us in trouble. But unless you really want to,
I don't want to go there. The farm team, the Pittsburgh farm team, the Toronto club of the Eastern League, will commence playing Sunday games. Yeah, farm teams, farms, the farm. I think that's interesting.
Did you think that back in the day maybe we'd have to do the research. We probably have the right manual in front of us right now. Right. Why is it called the farm?
Right.
Did they go to the farm to play baseball? It's like, just send him to the farm. He's not ready yet. He's not ready yet send him back to the farm. Maybe, maybe he had to go. Maybe they just didn't need him yet. And so he had to go back to work on the farm until they had a spot for him. I don't know.
Well, listen, according to the Paul Dixon Baseball Dictionary, okay, and I imagine he did the research. The first time, growing talent. The first time that this was used in print, at least, right? Frank Chance has threatened to retard the growth of Rochester, New York. He has made it known that he may remove the, quote, farm of the New Yorks from that city to Jersey City. That was in February 26th of 1913 in the San Francisco Bulletin. So I would guess that Gerald Cohen wrote about that, and then the use stuck. Oh, wait. Baseball farm, first use, 1897. So it's cross-referenced here. If we go to baseball farm in the baseball dictionary, and this is just, we're just promoting the use of this. And if you think that this book, if you're still with us, and we do have Jordan Crosno, if you message us your information, we will send you a copy of the Paul Dixon Baseball Dictionary. Just message us your info or tweet it. Baseball Farm. Going back here now. Is it cross-referenced to a page number? It is not.
But
See,
I think Jordan's right about this comment there. I think perhaps
Go for it.
he just said, I think he's just using farm as a catch-all term for the team and everything there.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah, I get you there, but what it says here in the dictionary is that its first use was in 1897. It is evident that Thornton is in need of further seasoning in minor league company, and Uncle may send him to join the Chicago farm hands on one of the farms in the Western League, and that was in the Washington Post, June 14th, 1897 is what I would guess. And Hogan has been farmed to Indianapolis. That was in 1895. And so 1897, 1890, and then here you go. The farm was also referred to as the outfield. And that was in 1875. So, this thing tells you like how far back the use of the farm. So they used to say, somebody used it at some point to refer to the outfield as the farm. He was able to catch a ball. So it says here, Oscar Bielaski made two most significant catches taken at extreme points of his farm from the bats of Dickie Pierce and Lipman Pike. That was in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, May 20th of 1875. And so that term farm has been used to refer to the outfield. It's also been used in the written word to refer to the club, the minor league club or where players were sent. So a lot of interesting things that you can learn from and information that you need to have. I mean, come on. You need to have that information if you're a baseball fan. You've got to know more about baseball.
Dude, and this is perfect. If you're a politician, this is perfect filibuster material right here, baby. I mean, can you just imagine how long it would take to get through this, baby?
Hold on a second. Are you suggesting that I, in some way, shape, or form, am blathering on about nonsensical information? Is that what are you?
No. I would never
reading about the farm system to a filibuster.
I'm not saying that you're trying to stall to get out of doing chores or whatever, which may or may not be happening right now. But I'm saying that it could, feed two birds with one scone, because we don't kill birds on this channel because I'm a Cardinals fan. Mike might kill birds. He might like to kill birds in his spare time, but that's not me. What I'm saying is feed two birds with one scone. If you got to bore people, you might as well bore them with good information, not bore them at all.
Why you're saying the things that I'm blathering about are boring.
I'm not. No, I'm not bored by it. Some people might be bored by them, but I'm saying you might as well go on and read some educational material like the Paul Dixon's Baseball Dictionary, the Dixon Baseball Dictionary, that you cannot find on Amazon. You can only find it at your local bookstore. So don't even try to find it there. I mean, you could probably find it on Amazon. But anyway, good deal, Jordan. You can follow along with us on the show. Last time I asked you if you had any words of wisdom, that was like 30 minutes ago. So I don't know if I want to ask you again.
Listen, go to spring training. Those are my words of wisdom. If you still have time and you have the resources right now, there's a few days of spring training left before the clubs pack up from camp and head to their stadiums, their ballparks in the case of some baseball teams like the Cubs and the Red Sox. go to spring training. It is well worth it. Well worth it.
And you can follow the show at Long Live Baseball with 1L on Twitter. You can follow the podcast version of this, which will be coming out in the next day as soon as I have time to edit it and put it out there on Spotify. Long Live Baseball on Spotify. And of course, you can follow Mike and I. Our Twitter tags are at the bottom of the screen there. But for the podcast audience, at Michael Jones IA on Twitter to follow Mike, and at Seth_DIEWOLD to follow me on Twitter. And for Mike, for myself, baseball is just around the corner.
12 days, baby.
Go Cardinals.
Let's go Cubs.
And we will leave you with Mike's. If you missed it, we will leave you with our end screen here. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Long live baseball.
Thank you.
Hey, long live baseball,
Long
baby.
live baseball. Let's
Go.
go. All set.
Long live baseball.
Thank you.
You got it.
Right now.
Long live baseball.